Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 53 of the Hot Path Show. My name is Johnny.
My name's Johnny.
And today I'm joined by the survival kid, Daniel Kierkegaard Anderson. Welcome in, Danny. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. The survival kit.
Yeah, you're the survival kid because you made the entire game by yourself, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I didn't know about it until like 2 months ago, but you know.
Somehow you made it all.
Yes.
Maybe it was like a Severance style thing where you like didn't know.
Oh yeah, I just like went into work every day and then.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it's been a while since we've had you on the show. So I just have like a bunch of random little topics that I wanted to talk to you about. A bunch of Unity, Dots, ECS things, of course. Got a few write-ins from some people in the community, and I'm sure we got some people in the chat here today as well. So welcome in, everybody. It's going to be an exciting episode of the Hot Path Show. We're going to be kicking things off. As I mentioned, survival kids. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Switch 2 because you just picked up Switch 2. You mentioned that you've been playing it a lot, so I wanted to get your review on it. I did also want to ask you about survival kids, but it sounds like you haven't even been you don't even have the game.
Well, I have the source code, I have the project, I can open it up, I can inspect it. I am specifically curious about some stuff in the project because it is using entities.
Okay.
So yeah.
Actually, I did see that. I think next week, I think on Unity's Twitch and YouTube, they're going to be doing like a technical breakdown of some of the stuff in Survival Kids. So that'll be super interesting to see. But anyways, how is the Switch 2? What's been going? What you been playing? I'm assuming Mario Kart. Did you get the bundle?
I mean, I got the bundle. I have mostly been playing. 1 second. We can actually take a look. So if my camera is gonna focus.
Okay. So you got Mario Kart World, Mario Kart 8. What's that? Is that Zelda? That's the new one, right?
If I'm just gonna refocus the light here, maybe. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Echoes of Wisdom. That's the new Zelda one where you actually play as Zelda this time.
Yes.
We got Super Mario 3D World and Bowser Fury. Very good. Super Monkey Ball. Awesome. I don't know. Tinykin?
Tinykin. That's a Unity made game.
Okay.
A platformer where you play where there's a bunch of tiny creatures.
Fun. Breath of the Wild.
The new Zelda Breath of the Wild version. Otherwise, I haven't really been playing anything else. It's mostly actually Echoes of Wisdom, which is really fucking good.
And I'm assuming runs great. Now you've gone into the void.
I had to make it very dark to work.
Yeah. I'm assuming it all has been all running great on the Switch 2.
Oh, it's been running really, really good. Like I heard that Echoes of Wisdom initially had some performance problems, but
on the Switch 2?
On the Switch 1.
Yeah,
because it was also released on the Switch 1.
Yeah.
And it runs amazing on this console. So really no problems.
Yeah, I do like that style. I played the Link's Awakening remake, which was really good.
I still haven't played that one, but I really need to go back and play that one as well, because the reason that I got into Echoes of Wisdom was that my coworker Chris, which I think you've met at last year's Unite. Anyways,
okay.
Yeah. Anyways, I saw him playing Echoes of Wisdom, and then I was reminded of my childhood where I used to play Spirit Tracks and something glass.
Phantom Hourglass?
Yeah, exactly that one.
Those are the DS ones, right?
Exactly. And I really, really love those games. Like, they have some really good dungeon elements and like Metrovania style gameplays. Specifically the type of Metrovania that is you unlock something like a new ability, and then you are able to use that ability to that place that you saw earlier that looked interesting, but you didn't really know how it looked interesting. Now you have the ability where it's like, oh my god, I can use it.
Yeah.
And that's partially how I feel about Echoes of Wisdom as well, where there's so many fun puzzle elements and stuff you can use those abilities with, and it unlocks new possibilities, right? So it's really fun.
That's awesome. And what have you been thinking of the new Mario Kart? I hear they have like kind of a battle royale style type mode almost.
Oh, the knockout tour.
Yeah,
That's my favorite mode.
That's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. I mean, it obviously sucks if you lose, because then you just have to wait like
yeah, because you're just like out.
Yeah, exactly. And you can get really unlucky because like a big part of the problem is now you're 24 players, but a lot of the like difficulty is like you can sort of feel that there's like the bottom few AIs and then there's like a bunch of at the top, and so like if you are in first place, there's not a lot of space between first place and then going all the way to 10th, because like everyone is so stacked close together, and like you can really notice that when you're playing knockout tour as well. So if you lose just a bit of speed, then all of a sudden you're gonna get knocked out. Especially if that happens right before, or you get blue shield or something like that. It's a big problem.
Yeah, how is it with the items with like that many players? Is it like, does it get pretty crazy?
It certainly can. It certainly can. There's a lot of rubber banding in the game, which is a bit of a problem. Like if you for instance drift a lot in the game, apparently things get more difficult. Like it actually ramps up difficulty because it notices you are a skilled player, and so it will start throwing more items at you. So you won't
That's
get an
funny.
advantage.
It's like a dynamic difficulty, but you're like, let me play dumber so that the game is easier.
Yeah. And once again, there's a classic style of like, let me be in second place, or let me be a few places below so I get the better items, so that right before a deadline you can go ahead and get to the goal with your power up.
A lot of strategy in there.
Yeah, but it's really fun. I'm loving how many different like movements. Like there's so much movement in the game now. Like you can grind on rails, you can climb on walls. There's so many tricks you can do. Like every time that you do a jump in the game, if you perform a trick there, you get a bit of speed boost. It's really fun.
Nice, very good. But yeah, I'm a little surprised you didn't pick up Survival Kids day one.
Yeah, no, I'm a little sad that we don't even get keys internally. Even the people.
It might be like, is it like a Konami type thing? Like, because they're probably in charge of the keys.
Yeah, exactly. They are in charge of the keys. That's the whole problem. So they only had a few keys to give out internally. Yeah, but we like, and not everyone has source access, which is also another weird thing. But you're
special.
Yes. Well,
that's cool.
There's some entities code in there, so
yeah,
makes sense. And you can like everyone can request access. It's not that.
Have you played the game at all? Like other than just kind of like jumping in and like messing around a little bit?
No, not yet. No, but I have the project ready to take a look at, because there are some interesting things in the project that I need to have a look at, that I can't go into too much detail about.
Well, yeah, if you ever do get an opportunity to talk about some of those things, I mean, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Anything else about the Switch 2 before we move on?
Nothing much. I mean, another thing, like this really just works so well.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask, like, how's the mouse and everything too? Have you played with that at all?
I really haven't. Like the only time I've played it with it is because it works in the menu.
So I don't know, set it up, type in your password, whatever.
Yeah, because right now there's the only game I know of that is available that uses it is the Nintendo 2 Tour, or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah,
the like touring museum game that is like
they make you pay $10 for.
Yep, yeah, that's no, I'm not paying for what is like an intro to the console. It's
I know. I think Civ was supposed to come to it. I don't know if it's out yet or not, though. But that probably would work well with the mouse, I'm assuming.
I'm guessing. I don't know, but I think generally a lot of first-person shooters work with it. Actually, now that I think of it, I think Splatoon works.
Oh, okay.
So, but I don't have Splatoon, so I don't know.
Well. That's pretty cool, though. Does it feel like good, like it's like good responsive mouse, like?
No, yeah, no. I mean, if you just like move it around, especially in the console, what's it called, the home screen, it feels like a normal mouse in responsiveness.
And are you just using it like on your coffee table or whatever, like no mouse pad or anything, or?
Yeah, you can just like there, or even I've gotten it to work on my lap. So.
Oh, okay, sweet.
Really
Holy smokes! Thank you so much for the super chat here. Making an online, mostly open world RPG, probably not massive using dots and netcode. Any advice? Worried about bottlenecks? I mean, there are probably a lot of things to discuss. I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you have any specific questions in mind or things you're worried about in scalability, then please do ask.
Yeah, do appreciate the super chat though, but yeah, all the best on the open world RPG. Probably not massive. That makes sense to have, but yeah, I mean, I don't know kind of what your experience with netcode is like, but there's all different types of fun things that you can get into with netcode. And yeah, I do want to get back to doing some more DOS netcode stuff myself, because there's been a bunch of updates to the package since I've done any like serious development with it. We're actually going to maybe briefly talk about that a little bit later. One thing that I do want to actually talk about is over on the Unity Asset Store. Each week they do like a publisher of the week, where they like select a publisher and then all of their assets are 50% off for that week. And they also give away one of their assets for free. And I wanted to bring this up because this week the publisher is Lucas. And Dani, do you know how to say Lucas's last name?
I have no idea. I do remember when he worked here, but I never had to pronounce his name.
I made a video about one of his assets one time.
We should get him on. We should get him on the show, and then he can pronounce his name, and then we know.
Because like I tried so hard in this video to like break down every letter, and like I just said it so many times, and I was like, that's probably wrong. That's probably wrong. I got it to one that I finally liked. And then he commented on the video. He's like, oh, it's always so funny to hear like Americans try to say my name. So yeah, Lucas, we'll have to get you on the show to figure out how to say your last name. And of course, talk about all your amazing assets.
I mean, he has so many good assets, and a lot of them are just dots based. So
yeah, a lot of them are dots based, and they're like, you don't have to use them with dots projects. So if you're not working on any dot stuff at all, like Agents Navigation, this one it's top tier. It's a great one. Works amazing with ECS and regular game objects. Super cool because it's like ECS powered. Like it's kind of doing what Unity is going to be doing, where you have like each game object has like an entity representation of it that kind of is doing some of those more calculations. But you can still kind of sync it with game objects. Of course, there's the Crowds expansion for it. More recently, he came out with this Cozy Builder one. Have you seen this? It's
that looks a lot like a Townscaper.
Yeah, well, it's I think also there's that game like Tiny Glade, which was like
Tiny Glade, yeah, the Bevy game.
Bevy ECS or a Rust Bevy type game.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, you can it just kind of is like that like real-time little kind of building thing, or you can just kind of like grab these little nodes and just like kind of like drag them around, and it just is like, immediately modifies like all the geometry of the building. So lots of really cool stuff in here. And I mean, only on sale for $11 right now. So that's pretty good.
I mean, even the $22
yeah, even yeah,
like that's pretty good.
It is a good deal, yeah, for sure. Imposter graph, adaptive split screen, local avoidance. This is all local avoidance is part of the Agents Navigation. So Dots Plus, you do get this one for free. So everyone can get this. You don't have to buy anything. You can just put it in your cart and then use the code ProjectDawn2025 at checkout to get this for free. It's basically just kind of like an extension of, it's just like a bunch of like Dots helper tools and stuff that I think some of the other packages utilize as well. Dots mesh slicer. He's got some icon stuff, even a little sword slash. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. So shout out to Lucas, CH, whatever. Go check it out. It's on sale through June 26th. So basically like next Thursday, I think that is when it is. All this stuff is on sale. So yeah, go check that out. Lots of good stuff in there. And also, do want to mention while we're talking about the Unity Asset Store, remind you that I do have something over on the Unity Asset Store, which is Dot Survivors. I put out a game on Steam, and then all the project files and like a bunch of learning resources are available on the Unity Asset Store. So this is available all through here. And I do want to mention this because in June, you can get an extra 10% off orders of $50 or more, which my asset is $50 or more. So if you just use June 2025 10 off, you get a nice little discount on there if you do want to purchase my asset. And that would be really, really exciting. So yeah. Next up, we can move on from some of this stuff. I do want to give a quick little shout out to a community member, a game made by one of Turbo Mix Games community members. You may have seen ITR in some of the chats and on the Discord.
Is this ITR?
Yeah. So I
shit.
think it's his company that he's been working with. So have you seen this game?
I have not. No, this is.
It was they just launched the demo and like upcoming page during Next Fest. So hot off the press here. So yeah, we got this nice little intro animation of the turtle coming through here. And actually, I don't know how much it shows in the tutorial, the trailer. Yeah, this is mostly, I think, just kind of the announcement trailer. I think this is like an actual gameplay here, maybe in here. Goodness,
it's kind of reminding me of that other fish game, Supsu or something like.
So it's actually like a city builder type game.
Okay.
And so of course, yeah, it uses dots in the entities package, so you can see that you're kind of like growing your little underwater empire here. I think it's a super neat idea. Actually, there is a demo available right now on Steam because you have to put up a demo for Next Fest, and I believe the demo is still available. So yeah, if you do want to check it out, the game is called Life Below. And
I mean, if it works on my Steam Deck, I might have to do it tomorrow.
Ooh, yeah,
I have a travel time, so.
Okay.
Oh, that looks cool. This is exactly my kind of game.
Yeah, super cool little city builder type game. So yeah, shout out to Life Below. It's really good. It doesn't have a release date yet. It's still just kind of upcoming. Yeah, I mean, it looks really cool. And yeah, check out the demo if you want.
I'm assuming it's also using dots. So.
Yeah. It is using dots and entities and everything. So yeah,
it's great.
Now, on that, I wanted to ask you, if you could guess, how many games released do you think have been made with Unity ECS?
Is this like the SteamDB score of with the entities?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It must be at 100 now.
527.
That is a little more than 800.
So yeah, this is something that I actually found out recently that you can do. Is if you go to SteamDB, there is a way where you can like filter out by what packages are installed. So you can actually like filter out by like what engine it was like built with. So it's like if it's built with Unreal or Unity or whatever, you can like select that as a filter. And so one of them is the Unity Entities package. Unity Burst is actually another one, but there's like 10,000 games with Burst, the Burst package.
I remember someone internally added that filter to because there's a SteamDB scraper GitHub.
Okay.
And if you add to that repository,
I saw the commit changes where people were like adding the way where you could like detect.
Oh, actually, you can see here, edit on GitHub. If you move your mouse to the left a little.
Yeah, that's how I found it. Wait, where is it? Edit on GitHub. Yeah.
You can see that's what actually determines it. Where is it?
Just Lee.
Lee Hammerton. He works at Unity. Well, this is just
this is just this. I did like, yeah, you can go in here and find out, like, you can actually see what it does and everything.
Yeah,
but it's kind of
it's pretty interesting. It just basically looks for specific folders being present or not.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, it's cool to see a bunch of cool big games that use
welcome,
the
Iter.
package.
We just talked about your game.
Oh yeah. Welcome in. We still have your game up right here. We were like literally just talking about it. Shout out. We think it looks really cool.
Yes.
But yeah, so yeah, pretty cool to see that 527 games now have been made with the entities package and continuing to grow for sure.
That is so cool.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know the last time that
the funny thing is, right, that as soon as the stuff that we're currently working on releases, then entities will have been integrated with game objects, and so every project will have that statement.
Every new Unity game,
yeah.
So I mean, I guess this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but I guess the entities package is still like a separate package, but it's kind of just like one of the...
but it's more additional content than anything from the base, because the base is the actual chunk store and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. What else do we got going on here? We did talk about my game and asset store product, Dot Survivors. Just wanted to let people know I'm going to be putting out a major update here soon where I have weapon evolutions, going to be implementing some localization, and a bunch of stuff. I have a couple short videos on like YouTube and Instagram and stuff. They've just been fun little things to make. So I've been putting together some silly little videos to share out there. But yeah, moving on, we can talk a little bit about some updates to entities and Unity, because there actually was it seemed like very recently, this says June 6th, the 1.4.0 pre-release 3, again, fairly minor version update. It seems like the new things that were added have to do with kind of like just giving better, like more information in the different inspectors, system inspectors.
It's funny you haven't highlighted the one that I actually know about.
What, the top one?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say on here. If you want to,
it's basically because there's we want to not use type information in runtime, and so for most of entities we have the type manager, and the type manager allows you to do reflection like things, but we have already built it ahead of time, and now it's also using IO post processing, and so it's even more ahead of time. It's at compilation time. But anyways, so the system type index actually allows you to ask a bunch of questions about a system. So now, because you can go from a system handle, which you guys might already know how to get a system handle, you can do state.system handle, I think is one of the ways, and then you can go from a system handle to a system type index, and then you can ask stuff like, hey, what do I need to update before? What do I need to update after? Like all the attributes that has been put on that system, stuff like that.
So instead of having to do like type of system name kind of thing.
Yeah, type of the system name, and then dot get attributes to figure out which attributes are on it. You can just like get the system type index and ask it what attributes are on it.
Now, is system type index guaranteed to be consistent between like editors and builds and everything like that?
No. It's at runtime.
Okay.
So for as long as your editor is open, it will be that ID until you do a domain reload. Then it's not guaranteed.
Okay. So yeah, you don't want to like save it persistently or anything. It's just more
no.
Yeah.
It's similar to just normal component type index, where it's also not stable.
Looks like ITR is catching up at 6x speed.
Okay, that is YouTube doesn't do that. I guess there's a plugin.
Yeah, so I have a plugin, and actually I did see it only happened like on my laptop like once that YouTube is now going up to 4x speed.
Oh,
Yeah. But yeah, there's
does
a plugin
the
that
audio
goes
cut
up to
out,
like,
or is it just like really, really high pitched or something?
no, it's still pretty good actually.
Oh, okay.
As far as 4x goes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I actually watch most videos at 2x, so
yeah, that's just kind of how it is.
well, unless it's in specifically entertainment. I don't watch for entertainment on 2x. That's
right. Yeah.
But everything educational, that's 2x.
Absolutely. By the way, welcome in, NZ. Great to see you.
Yeah, that's a familiar name.
And we've got a quick question we can hit here. Is dots something like multi-threading in a shell? Well, with dots, you do get access to, I mean, one part of like under the dots umbrella is the C# job system, which does give you kind of like Unity's way to manage multi-threading. So, it's part of it, but it is actually a lot more. And, we're talking about a little bit more of this here within some of these changes to the entities package. Yes. Anything else you wanted to say on system type index?
No, it's just I recommend people use the type manager in case they want to do reflection without being managed.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this is new to this pre-release 3 version,
yes,
then, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just means that you can do more reflection-like things on systems specifically.
Gotcha. And I think we talked about this a while ago about how you could now have like generic iJob entities. I guess maybe there was some things that were fixed on here, but I also just kind of like the text of this. You can now use fully specified generic components. Those specified generic components, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you can have a generic component and what's it called? You can't just use a unspecified version. Like your iJob entity, if it has a T, you can't then just have a my component T because then there's nothing that really has to type anywhere. But if you were to use a specified like my component of int, then that's fully viable, and that would be a specified component, and so that's okay. And there was a problem with it not working as a parameter in iJob entity, which is what I fixed.
Yeah. All right. And so actually we can just real quickly, do just want to mention on netcode for entities, there are a bunch of new updates here. I haven't even gone through the changelog, but every new version, they add like a billion things to this. So like, it's awesome to see just how much
they are really working on, 1.4.
These
and
guys
1.
have been doing great. Yeah, they're on 1.6.
Oh yeah, exactly. What the fuck?
Overachieving.
Yeah,
it's not even 1.6 pre-release. It's just straight up.
Yeah. No, it's very confusing. I don't know why release management didn't just like go with saying, "Hey, we're gonna release a fake version for entities, just so that they can get more releases."
I feel like there was like 10 minutes where all the versions were in lockstep and they were like updating them all together, and then now it's just like
yeah. No, it's ridiculous. I feel like we should just have fake interim versions just so that everyone knows which version matches with which version, which now is not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And obviously netcode is going to have more updates because they are actively working on that version.
Well, yeah, you do see it a little bit with some of the things like the entities graphics package here. Like this one, it's, has the 1.4, and like all this is doing is just updating the Unity entities dependency here. So like, those ones are still pretty close. The thing that I did want to mention on this is I thought it was cool that they added support for the adaptive pro volume component in the companion game object system. So awesome to see that they're supporting some of those new lighting features in the entities graphics package very quickly.
I mean, I can I won't say too much, but I will say some of these are not because they actively are trying to support it. Some of it might also be because we have customers that need it.
Yeah.
But no, it's like for the most part we do want to support stuff like that. But obviously, if we have a big customer that also needs it, then there you go.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can just hit this one real quick here. So follow-up question on the guy who's making the open world RPG. I suppose every game is unique, but with hoping you guys might know some common bottlenecks and pitfalls with the tech stack in general. And again, just to remind that they're using dots and netcode for kind of a open world type game. I mean, it is very common, I feel like, for games to be graphics bound. Like it is, you really have to have like a lot of dynamic things going on for something to be kind of more bound on the CPU side of things. Yes. But if you are using dots netcode, there is the whole kind of like simulated rollback and resimulation. And so, yeah, if you start to have like a good amount of like physics bodies and things like that was kind of the main thing I remember seeing is like, if you have a lot of dynamic physics bodies, you can kind of run into some issues because it has to like, resimulate all that stuff.
But I mean, and that's also a big thing for a lot of people using specifically netcode for entities, is that people are using netcode for entities not just because they want to use entities. Oftentimes it's actually more of they need it because it is the only net stack that we have with prediction.
Yeah. And I love netcode for entities for that reason, because it supports like all those cool things that I think are important for more like competitive type games.
But I mean, going back to the question, like some of the common pitfalls of people using dots, I feel like one of them is if you bring your object-oriented programming mindset directly just into it, like just you're not willing to change how you view programming a slight amount to get the most optimal experience, then you definitely will struggle, and you will definitely see the same performance problems that you were seeing before. Like dots is not a saving grace in that way, but it definitely allows you to structure things differently.
Yeah, totally. Because if you, like you say, if you're bringing some of those object-oriented programming mindsets into dots, then you're going to kind of be succumb to a lot of the same, object-oriented programming pitfalls, and you don't like really get as much of the benefit that you can be getting.
Yeah, and I mean, you might even get it slower because for a lot of the case with entities, you don't really have references, or at the very least, references are slightly more expensive because they have to be resolved. Whereas a managed pointer through the normal C# way is a lot more, cheap. So in that way, it's also you need to make sure that you don't use entities for what it wasn't meant for. But at the same time, if you have a game that I don't know, has a lot of systemic gameplay, or for whatever reason, there's a lot of different systems at play that play well with each other, then obviously ECS is way nicer than just game objects. Because I mean, it's the whole point with systemic gameplay.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Moving on. One other thing that I do want to point out is I don't think I've actually mentioned this on the show, but the vehicle controller, the ECS-based vehicle controller, is now out. This course was made by Philip, who we had on the show a while ago now, actually after the previous GDC, not this one in 2025, but the one in 2024.
Yeah.
He's the developer of the like kind of regular dots character controller. And so now there's this super cool vehicle controller. Have you had a chance to play around with this much at all?
No, I've kinda. I know what this is based on, and I did play around with that one.
Okay. So it's super cool, and I think it sounds like there was also maybe a collaboration with I guess is people from the NWH Vehicle Physics. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Like there's seems like there's a bunch of different applications. They're showing different car and suspension types here, and they mentioned you can create like vehicles with like 1,000 wheels on them and do all kinds of fun stuff.
I mean, why do we need Mario Kart if we can just make our own?
Exactly.
We have Mario Kart at home.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so there is a bunch of documentation with it that goes like pretty in depth about how to set everything up, and it is compatible with netcode for entities. So it kind of shows you some setup about how to do all that stuff. So I think very, very cool if you want to implement any types of vehicles in your ECS game. Okay, so I'm going to start to get into some topics I wanted to pick your brain about a little bit. So one near and dear to your heart, of course, iJob Entity.
I mean, that was my very first job when I started at Unity.
Exactly. So wanted to talk about this a little bit, and I can't remember if this had came up or not, but I have the documentation pulled up here, and it shows you how to create this all and everything. But it is still using schedule parallel. Now, I recently heard that that there is also a schedule parallel by ref, and if we come over to the API documentation, there's run by ref, schedule parallel by ref, all this. So oh, by the way, great comment here. On very first job, nice. So yeah, what is this schedule by ref all about? Like I did just kind of try it on my own, and all you literally need to do is just change the name to like add that by ref in there. But go ahead.
Okay, if you on another tab find the normal schedule version, then I can very quickly show you what the difference is.
Actually, I think
just yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so notice that it's an extension function in either case.
Okay.
And can you see the difference between the extension function?
Okay, so it says, like just looking at this here, right?
Yeah, so it says this job data,
where T is an unmanaged iJob entity.
Yeah, and then look at the other one.
And if we go to the other one, then we have this ref T job data.
Yeah, and that's the
where T is unmanaged iJob entity. Is it just the ref?
It's the ref. It is literally just the ref. So it basically just means that it doesn't have to copy the job in order to invoke the schedule.
What do you mean copy the job?
So obviously a method, because the job is a value type, and you call a method on that value type, and so it would have to copy the job into that method, right? It's just a normal static method, and so it would have to copy the whole job. So if you have a very long job, then it would have to copy that entire thing into the stack of the next method invoke, and so you can skip that. So like the basic gist of it is it doesn't really matter which one you use. It's just slightly more performant in the particular case that you have a bigger job. If you have a small job, it makes no difference. If you have like 1 or 2 native arrays in your job, it makes probably no difference, because those are just like storing pointers and an atomic safety handle. So it like the chance that it makes a difference is very small, though it can save you sometimes. And for some customers especially that do have big jobs, use that one. There is one note to add why we don't have this as the default, because obviously if that one is just better, technically speaking, by every regard,
you would just replace the base one, right?
Exactly. And so the one particular difference is that if you have an extension function where it has a this ref, you cannot also create it in the same call. So you can't like do a construction of the job and then as part of the construction do dot schedule.
Okay, so you just have to bake it on a second line, basically.
Exactly. So and with if it is without the ref, then it can do it as part of the construction on the same line.
Okay.
So it basically is the difference between having to save it in a job first and then doing the schedule versus just being able to schedule directly.
Actually, I have a code editor up here that we can actually test this out on real quick. Okay, so basically, yeah, what I'm doing here is,
yeah, that could work.
I can just do like by ref, like all you need to do there. So that's fine.
And that totally works. But if you
then you're basically saying, like, if you do something like this,
yes, and then remove the this would not work if you actually were to compile it. I don't know why Writer thinks so.
Where is this here?
Like, that really shouldn't be compiling.
That should really not
shouldn't
work.
Be compiled. It should not work. I can see it's compiling. So let's see.
Thinking about it.
It would be very embarrassing if it were to pass right now, right?
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. A ref or out value must be an assignable variable.
Yeah. Which it currently is not.
Yeah, Writer still is not showing that, but yeah.
But if you were to do schedule parallel. So what's up with the slow compile time? Get a better machine, my dude.
Make a better engine, my dude.
Touche. There you go.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I feel
also
like just been spoiled by I have an M4 Max. It's way too fast now.
Yeah, I feel like I have a M3 Pro. It compiles pretty quickly, I feel like.
Yeah.
But 32 threads is not enough these days, apparently.
Yeah, no. I mean, we're working on it, obviously. It's not.
Yeah.
It obviously is very bad, and especially with the main reload, it's not great.
Yeah. So basically, you would probably recommend using schedule parallel by ref in pretty much all cases. Like, the only reason that you wouldn't use it is like if you had a bunch of, like, if you had like an existing project with a bunch of stuff set up like this, and it's like you'd have to like go through and like update them all to separate. But
also, like, in this particular case, at the test job here, the thing that is easiest to do is just not create a variable for that job. And so and I can see that it's just passing in delta time. Delta time is like it the same size as a ref is. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not actually cheaper to do this by ref.
Yeah.
And so it like, for the most part, it doesn't matter, and you should just do whatever is easier.
But so it's really like, recommended if you're kind of splitting things up anyways, like, fine, whatever, just add the by ref, might as well. But for the big job, it's like, all right, you really should use it on those.
Yeah, exactly. If you're splitting it up anyways, do by ref. If you have a really chunky job, always do by ref. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Sounds great to me. All right. Well, while we got this open, we have a very, very exciting topic to talk about. I don't think anybody knows about this right now, except for maybe the people in that one Discord that you shared this in, because it's not on any of the Unity documentation, not in any of the change logs I've seen, not in the API documentation. It's not anywhere.
Yeah, no, I don't know what it is.
It's not anywhere. You do know what it is. We talked about this before. Yes. Entity ID.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you can see, we're in Unity version 6002. Excuse me, version 6000.2. It's the new beta version. on Unity Engine objects, you can now do .getEntityID, and this returns an entity ID type. Dani, explain what this is all about.
Yeah. So normally every game object in Unity has this thing called an instance ID, and it's just a normal thing you can get from a game object directly. So if you do GameObject.getInstanceID, what is returned here is something called an integer.
Capital D on that one.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So this has been in Unity since forever, and it's always been an integer. The main gist of that problem is that it's always been an integer, and so people store it as an integer. In their entire code base, a bunch of different integers can either mean that they are storing like user data, or they are storing an instance ID, or they are sometimes storing their own little version of an ID, and it's not actually an instance ID. So there's a lot of code out there where it's very ambivalent whether an integer means an instance ID or it's something else entirely. And so let's just not use an integer. The problem is it's very hard to change such a fundamental part of Unity. It's a very, very fundamental part of Unity because
this is probably very deep inside the source code, used in a lot of places,
especially in the editor and asset store packages.
Yeah.
Because it's a way to go from an integer directly to the runtime created object. You can do there's 3 different ways you can go from an instance ID to the object. It's editor utility.instance ID to object. It is resources.instance_id to object, and it is GameObject.find object from entity ID, instance ID. Sorry. And so all of those are ways to go from the instance ID, which is an integer, directly to the object. And so a lot of editor code does that. So okay. Getting rid of this mistake, this very old mistake, is very hard. But one thing we can do is we can create a new thing called an entity ID. And actually, I should state why we need to change this. So the reason that we need to change it is because we're making it so that every game object underlyingly has an entity. Now, how big is an entity? Turbo, do you know?
You have I've seen 8 bytes because you have 4 for the index and 4 for the version.
Yep. And therefore, we need the integer to be bigger. And it can't just be an integer. It needs to be, the size of a U-long. And so, we could go around changing everything to U-long, and that's a problem because of the reason I just stated. But anyways, instead, what we've chosen to do is we've created a new type called an entity ID. And that is what we want people to be storing everywhere. It's called an entity ID because it's a merger of an instance ID and an entity. It initially won't actually be an entity, and so it won't be, a valid entity that you can, see if it has chunks on or allocate chunks to, etc. It's just right now it's an instance ID. It's still 4 bytes. If you look, it's an integer.
Yeah, I just saw it's just an integer is the M data.
Yeah, it's still an integer, so it's still 4 bytes. But the plan is that we are going to change this. This is going to change to 64 bits. Not in this version, but in some future version. We'll see which version that will be. We will probably have to do a huge announcement when that happens.
6003.
Because it is somewhat of a breaking change, and we might not even be in Unity 6 by that point. But right now, all of that is sort of up in the air. That's a question and a half. In either case, it means that we want people to be using this type. Everywhere in your code where you store an instance ID, ideally you should store an entity ID instead. One of the things we are doing to make it easier for you to do that is that we have an implicit cast from int to entity ID back and forth. At some point, that implicit cast will disappear as well.
This instance ID right here.
Yeah, that implicit cast will be deprecated at some point because we don't.
I did see this is
on it.
Already marked obsolete. Please use entity ID instead.
Yeah, that's an instance ID. We created a type for the instance ID. That's just a wrapper.
Yeah, I was curious because we just looked at the instance ID that you get, and it's just that int 32. But then so
there is an instance ID type, but the instance ID type is just for us wrapping it internally. We're not actually using that. We are using the entity ID. The entity ID has an implicit cast between entity ID and int. If you look at like line 59 and 61.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that one converts between the two. And we use those conversions because just to make it easier on users to upgrade in their project. At some point, we will have to obsolete those as well, because again, people shouldn't be storing integers and entity IDs as like an implicit thing between the two, because at some point you can't just cast between the two because one of them will be bigger than the other one, right? So you will lose information by casting one way to the other way, and we don't want that. That's an unsafe sort of thing to do. But right now we're just making it easier for everyone. So yeah. But it also means that every single it's not just that there's a get entity ID on game objects. It's also that we have to go out in the entire code base and make sure that every single call that takes in an instance ID now can pass in an entity ID directly instead. And that we obsolete the version that takes in an integer. Which there is so many APIs in our code base that does that.
I was gonna ask, like, do you have like a count somewhere of like have you like scanned the code base to see how many instances you're gonna have to update?
No, but I know that just like one of the bigger changes, ironically speaking, is just tree view. Now I don't know if it's in the version that you're currently on. It is definitely in 6.2.
This one is 6.2.
Yeah, but we had a bit of a weird release scheduling thing going on with the tree view stuff. So could you try looking at tree view and seeing if there's a generic version of a tree view?
We're in the editor?
Yeah.
And
well, just in writer.
Oh, sorry. What do you need me to
do? Look for a type called tree view. Do you have Unity code on so you can see that? Like if you are in external tools inside of Unity and then you enable.
I don't know.
Go into Unity, preferences, external tools. Yeah, then there is which one is it? Registry packages. I just normally have all of them enabled.
Built-in packages, maybe.
Maybe, probably.
I could do registry and built-in.
Yeah, those sound correct.
And then do I need to refresh or anything?
I mean, you can press the regenerate. I don't know if you need to do that. But anyways, if you go inside of writer now, it should update the project. Because this just updates the solution and CSBrush to include the additional information.
Okay.
I mean, the other thing you could do is you can try to use the type. So if you just search tree view directly from here. Okay, and
UI elements.
The GUI version. Go to that one. Yeah, okay. This does have the new one. So you can see the tree view type is now obsolete. And so what a tree view in Unity is it's the scene hierarchy, it's the project browser, it's the audio mixer, it's every time that you have like a hierarchy of things, that's a tree view. And the problem is a lot of the time the tree views inside of the editors happens to store for every row, it has to store a unique identifier. That unique identifier directly overlaps with instance IDs like 90% of the time inside of the editor. But not a lot in user code. and packages and so on. So it kind of creates this problem where a lot of people don't actually need to upgrade to the new thing, but we do internally have to update the new thing, and we don't want to end up having two different tree views. So what we ended up deciding is we created a generic tree view, and the generic tree view then can the user is able to implement the int version of to keep the unique identifiers just being an int, while we internally can start using the instance ID version, or the entity ID version, I suppose, but the actual typed version. And then for the users that actually do also happen to be in the same problem that we are, that they need to store a unique identifier of entity IDs, well, then they can also use the generic tree view of entity ID. So it sort of creates this case where, okay, we have to deprecate a type that everyone uses. There's internally, just in the Unity codebase alone, 34 usages of the tree view. This does not include Unity packages, and it does not include asset stored packages that are using tree view. That is just Unity alone. So it's the case where it's very, very hard to do a simple little change just because we have so many usages of it.
Yeah.
But what it enables us to do is, as soon as we've turned all of the tree views into entity ID tree views, then all of a sudden now we know all of those tree views, which APIs they are using, and so we can start finding more holes that we can create public API with entity ID for. Because a lot of the time we are using the same API internally as people are externally, and at some point we have to punch through. It's all very confusing. But in the end, what we're trying to get at is we're trying to get to a point where people don't really have a way of getting an integer for their instance IDs, and they don't really have a way of, well, they don't have a case where they can't go from the entity ID to whatever they need with the entity ID, right? Like they can store the entity ID as what they need.
Just rewrite the engine at this point.
We tried that, and that didn't go so well. I think people have heard of this project called Project Tiny.
Oh yeah.
That was a Dutch project of all things.
Yeah, that was cool. I sadly never got to dive into that too much, but it was a cool little initiative.
A lot of Dutch people still think so. It is a cool initiative. It is just, it's very hard to convince anyone that that's a good idea for obvious reasons.
And I mean, I feel like anything that you make with Unity, Dots, and ECS right now is going to run fantastic on like just a regular phone that most people have. So it's like,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, right now we're doing kind of the opposite. We are kind of rewriting the engine instead. Right? It's just a little.
We're not rewriting the engine. We're rewriting the engine.
But I mean, I think the important part here is like what we're trying to do is we know where we want to be, and we also try to put in a path for people to upgrade from that path, right? Because there's no reason that we couldn't just internally change everything over to entity ID and call it a done deal, right? The actual part of the difficulty here is that we have existing customers, like existing users that have code that lives, and they would probably want to upgrade at some point.
Yeah.
So let's create an upgrade path for them. It's not that much extra when we know the way to do it.
It's just you're kind of just massaging some of the types a little bit, and
yeah. And the thing is, for a lot of this, it's just been people have been too scared to touch any of this for a while. It's not like it's actually impossible. It's just people have been scared.
I get it. I mean, you're literally talking about the problem right now about how many people are affected by this, and it's like, if you change this, it's like it has so many of these knockdown effects. But glad that you guys are actually doing it, as opposed to like so many other companies where just their legacy code base just keeps growing and growing and growing till it becomes this like total mess that's like not even fixable.
Yes.
Looking at you, Visual Studio.
Yeah.
That's I mean that's literally, talking about rewrite the engine. That's like pretty much what they did with VS Code, right? Just make a new editor.
Yeah, and now everyone's using that instead. That's
yeah. So I mean, does that even mean that like packages that have like literally not even been updated in years but are still like supported by Unity, like those are all going to have to like get new updates for them?
Yes and no. I mean, the thing here is obviously we are just obsoleting things. We're not actually, removing things right now. I mean, they will in a future version when we are allowed. It's and feel safe that enough users have migrated. You never know what the next version number is, right? So the thing is, when we are confident that we can just like remove it, we're gonna do that, and we will probably do it before we are confident, because the thing is, we do have to do some of that at this point, because we can't just allow old code to live just because it lives. It's so like it's more about like creating a very easy upgrade path for users. They sort of have to upgrade fast, but there is a version for them. Like as long as you go from 6.0 to 6.1 to 6.2, you should have an easy upgrade workflow the entire way through. There should be no path where that is not just like a direct, you know exactly what to do.
Like because you kind of get all those obsolete warnings and everything. Like you're never gonna be getting any like crazy breaking changes.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think that would be something important for Unity to point out, because like the versioning is a little bit weird. How like 6.0 is LTS, but 6.1 is not, but it's called supported. But then 6.4 is LTS now or something.
Yeah.
I think that would be very important for you guys to get the messaging right on.
Yes, no, I completely agree. But I mean that it is kind of the point of the whole like migration plan is that people can incrementally move over, and we support them in doing so in that way. But it's very hard for us to say no. We can't we can't change things. We just have to be really good at how we change things and what sort of things we're changing, and in that way we are not stopped from changing things, but we're still doing it.
I haven't even tried this out in forever. Slightly annoyed that .renderer and .rigid body and all those still haven't been deleted by the engine. Love to finally be able to name a field without that warning. Because you remember way back in the day, you could used to do game object .rigid body like the same way you could do. Like,
what do you mean used to? You can still do it. That's
well,
it.
That's literally what he said. But yeah, but no, it would actually give you the rigid body there. But yeah, funny. All right. So next up, we actually do have a question that was pre-written in by Jan here. So great to have you in chat for this one, by the way. So he says, hey, how to ensure determinism when working with native collection parallel writers in parallel jobs. So that being like queue, list, multi-hash map. And he gives some example context of get the same result from a seed/state in multiplayer without sending everything across the network. Maybe more of a job/native collection question, but would be curious about determinism when working with entities as well. Do you have any kind of initial thoughts off the bat on that one?
I mean, I have no idea. Like the only I know how it works for entity command buffer, and I would imagine it's sort of similar. Like the whole thing with entity command buffer is that we have this key, and the key sort of determines like the unique ordering at the end when we actually go and combine it all together.
That's like when you're passing in the like index kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So in an entity command buffer, there's a version where you pass in a unique key. And when you do that, the reason that you have to pass in the key is because, what's it called?
Race
Like at
conditions.
the end, yeah, exactly. And at the end, we sort of use that to, collect everything together in the correct order. As long as that number is unique across threads, then it's anybody's game, right? You can have the same number technically, from what I recall, generated from the same thread, and it's totally fine as long as the different threads don't create overlapping IDs.
I did not think about that. Was sorting all my entries afterwards, but could sort by chunk. Yeah, and you can get a unique index per chunk. So yeah. We also did have a question from Luke, who is one of the developers that we had on, I think a couple months ago, actually, about their game Annihilate the Spanse, that big kind of like RTS space type game. He kind of figured it out, but I'd just be kind of like curious to get your thoughts on it. So in their game, I think that they might have like opened up some like modding type tools to the community. And with that, like, all these like new things were being created. And I think they were like running into the archetype limit, and the game was just kind of like hard crashing.
Okay.
Because the archetype limit is like 16,000 or something like that. And so yeah, he was curious about like if there is any way to like, clear unused archetypes. Because like, I think basically what was happening is like, there are a bunch of places in their code where they're, doing like add component, add component, add component. And like each time that happens, like that creates a new archetype that like is now being tracked by ECS. So it was like just racking up their archetype limit. So yeah, he was curious about, if there was any way to kind of clear out some of those unused archetypes. But the solution he ended up doing is just kind of modifying the package to increase the archetype limit count.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I don't think we have a way of defragging the archetypes, unfortunately. Well, it's like a defragmentation of chunks in general have been something we've been discussing for a while. The ironic thing is, if we are at that point where we are defragging things, we are getting ironically close to creating our own garbage collector. Right? It's like
a little bit, huh?
Entity, so in some sort of way, becomes its own little manual garbage collector. It's yeah. No,
Yeah.
and I mean, it probably something we might look at some point if it makes sense. We just already have some initiatives that sort of put that in a weird spot.
Yeah. And also, as a reminder, this game is developed with entities 0.51. So
I see. Okay, that's an interesting situation.
It is for sure. And yeah, the actually other interesting thing about it is, so they increased the archetype limit, and then it sounded like he was maybe saying that things started like spawning with like pieces missing. And I wasn't sure if maybe there was also some like material mesh info limit that they might be running into. Do you know if that's a thing at all?
I don't know. No clue.
Yeah, I that was just kind of like my one thought of, if they're hitting some archetype limit, that they may just be hitting some other limit somewhere. And I was like, oh, maybe material mesh info was a thing. But yeah. Looks like there was a question that you wanted to answer.
Yeah, I am quickly looking it up just so, because I'm pretty sure I added documentation on this because a lot of people were confused about this set topic, and I think the easiest way is just I link people to set documentation.
This ECB question here?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, the question is, so what happens if I give my ECB always a passkey of 1 in every job? Didn't get it. Yeah, I mean, that is curious. Like if you you don't care about necessarily the order, like just pass in a 1. I'm assuming, right?
Oh, there you go. I found the thing that I was looking for. I will expertly share part of my screen.
Expertly. Wow.
It's there's a person, my skip level manager specifically, who happens to say that every single time. He will expertly share part of his screen instead of his whole screen.
It's like the most low tech thing that you guys do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You guys are making an entire game engine, but you are expertly screen sharing.
Oh wait, no, I did the wrong one. That's fine. I'll just press this directly.
So not so expertly at the screen share there, huh?
That is why it's so difficult, right? So, anyways, okay. So if you actually look at all of the parallel writer commands, we have a little sort key, right? And the documentation says a unique index for each set of commands added to the engine command buffer across all parallel jobs writing to this buffer. As an example, the chunk index in query provided by iJob entity is an appropriate value used. The reason that chunk index in query is fine to use is that it's something that will be unique per like across threads, right? Even though if you were to pass a bunch of, like, it ultimately doesn't matter if you are creating, you are adding the same sort key twice. It just, you cannot add the same sort key twice if it could be a separate thread.
So does that kind of get flagged by the safety system if you did that? Like, would you actually see any errors, or would things just kind of like silently fail?
It would silently fail. It wouldn't be deterministic. I think I'm fairly sure. Someone could probably say I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it would silently fail.
But like, what if the case where you like literally don't care about the order or anything, like you just have like one simple thing that you're doing and like nothing depends on anything else, like there's no dependencies, like you could probably be safe by doing that, but it's still like not necessarily a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. I'm pretty sure it's just undeterministic at that point if you just add the number one for all of them. In any case, what basically what this sort key makes sure of is that as long as every thread has a unique number, everything will work out. It will just use that unique number to determine where to insert things, and it will go in the right order deterministically.
So why can't that be, say, implicitly added? Like if it knows what like thread index that, like what worker thread index it's running on, like why can't it just use that? Like why do we have to supply that?
Hey man, I'm not the kernel people.
I don't know. I just work here.
This is not mine. This is the kernel people. I don't know.
Fair enough.
It's a fair question. But I'm sure there is actually a good answer in this case.
I would assume so. Yeah.
But unfortunately, I do not know.
No worries. Okay. Good question. Let's see, where is my dealio here? What else did I want to talk about? Okay. So this is actually something in yeah, I just work here. In my game, .survivors. So I am doing a little bit of kind of procedural editor generation here. So like basically, like I have all these. I just like open this up. I have like a bunch of these like kind of little decoration items and things like this, just kind of like spread out throughout the world. And I mean, you see, it's a pretty big space. I think it's like 2,000 by 2,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I do have like an editor world dealio running so that like I can come into the level generator here. I can like change, a bunch of these parameters about what things that I want to spawn, the frequency that I want to spawn them, all that kinds of stuff. And then if I update the seed, then it like, you see that it kind of like randomly changes everything to like a different location. So there's like this here. And then if I were to like change the seed, then it's like all different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like nice to have running in the editor, right? The thing is that I was kind of wanted to pick your brain about a little bit is what would be like the best way, because the seed is like fixed. I don't have the seed changing like every time you enter the game. Like it's just a fixed seed. So like every time you enter the moon level, the layout is always going to be exactly the same. So I was wondering if there's like a good way that I can like have this stuff open, like generating in the editor world, but I can still bake it into an entity scene so that when I ship my game, that it doesn't have to do that level generation when someone loads into the level each time. You know what I'm saying?
I'll try saying it again. My brain wasn't initially passing it.
So basically, I have this scene here that, like, you know, it's the editor world that's doing this like edit time generation. And yeah, I assume the answer is going to be to use a custom baking system for this.
Yeah.
But basically, what I want to do is like have all this data and just like be able to bake it into an entity scene, so that, because like right now when I enter play mode, it runs this generation every time I enter.
Oh yeah, no, that is totally running. You just needed to have it in a baking system. That is,
so like what is kind of like practically, how do I do that? Like do I
whatever system
define
that
like a specific scene or something to like add them to? Because also like a stretch goal of this is I would want to be able to assign these different elements to different scenes, like different entity scenes, depending on where they are in the world. So they could be kind of loaded in and out as the player is kind of walking around. Like, is that something possible to do as well?
Say the last part again.
So I think the first step of this would just be to like get a custom baking system going to bake everything into a single entity scene.
Yeah.
And like, so that every time you enter the game, it's already loaded and ready to go. The stretch goal of this would be to like break the world up into like multiple entity scenes, so that as you're moving around, we could load these in and out. So it's only loading like the like world elements around where the player is.
Yeah. For that, I would probably recommend using scene sections, because that means you can still just have one subscene, but the subscene can then be split up into multiple regions, and then you can load those regions independently. It sort of just eases up the baking workflow of it.
Gotcha. What is the kind of process for creating scene sections?
I think it's just like there's some documentation. That's not my specific area.
Okay.
But
there's quite a bit of stuff on scenes and baking systems and stuff. And
there's a specific one on scene sections, I'm fairly sure. But I think it's just a shared component or something like that you add, and then it sort of just
works. Okay. I think that would probably work out well for me.
Actually, just look level generator to the right there, scene section.
Oh yeah. Unity entity seed section. Yeah, this is a shared component. Yeah.
And then it has the numbers section, and you just change that number.
Okay, so it's the same scene GUID, and then these sections would be the individual things loaded in now. Okay, that's actually, I don't think that would be too difficult then.
Yeah, and creating a baking system is just, you change whatever system was currently, generating the map as it is. It just needs to, have the system filter on top to run in the baking world instead.
Yeah, so I have this here. Actually, let me just like close all these tabs. So yeah, this level generation system, this is already just running in the editor world and default world. So then this really instead would just need to be running in a baking system.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so would I do this in the editor world and the baking?
Why is it currently running in the editor?
So I can have it like update in real time with like anytime that I change these parameters, that it like basically just destroys everything.
No, but that is still covered by it updating as a baking, because as soon as you change anything in baking, it updates. It runs the baking pass.
True.
So therefore it would run baking. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So I can do both those things with just that. I like that a lot. Cool. All right. Well, I will experiment around with that and see how that goes. And actually, yeah, one thing that I learned recently, I think I was kind of using the term subscene for a lot of things. And really a subscene, like I was kind of reading through some of the documentation, a subscene is just a game object that is used to edit what is known as an entity scene. And entity scenes are really what the things that are loaded at runtime. And all that.
Yes.
Like I was kind of calling these sub scenes because they're like closely related, but it's like, the entity scene is like the actual, thing that gets loaded in the game. But a sub scene is just an editor only concept to help you edit things inside of an entity scene.
Yeah. And it's sort of confusing too, because like a sub scene even is just a normal scene, but you have a component on a game object called the subscene component.
Right. Yeah.
And that one points to a normal scene. And by doing so, it means that the builds will make sure to run baking on that scene to turn it into what you want with the bakers, right? Like it's just a normal scene. It works like a normal scene. You can open it like a normal scene. There's nothing there. The game object that is called subscene is the one that is actually doing all of the baking stuff on it, technically speaking.
Yeah. So yeah, entity scene versus subscene. And actually, so I'll show you. Let me see if I can pull up.
Kind of funnily, it's not even our team that owns subscenes. It's only tangentially owned by us. It's the entity scenes that are more us.
Interesting. So is entity or subscene more of like a editor?
It's more of a scene management thing.
Okay.
Scene management being the team that owns everything scene. Yeah, except for the transforms scene stuff.
Okay. So actually, yeah, and I'm pulling up this here. So this is actually the build folder. And so yeah, we have like the build of my game here. And so if we go into the .survivors data and into streaming assets, you'll see that there is an entity scenes here. Yeah. And this stores all these .entities and .entities header files. So like the .entities, I believe these are just like the actual entity scenes themselves. And actually, I'm assuming this like .0 right here, that's for like, is that individual scene sections?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I'll probably figure this out when I start messing around with scene sections if this kind of starts to increase here. But yeah, so there's kind of the like these are the entities, and then the entities header is just kind of more like I think metadata associated with each entity scene.
Yeah.
So yeah,
something that could be really cool. No, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I suppose an entities file is just like one particular scene section, and then the entities header is like all the scene sections of an entity scene.
Yeah. And the entity, something that could be something we have often thought about is what if the entity header also stored in additional debug information. Like for instance, something that is currently not stored in builds is all of the names of entities.
Right.
It would be very nice if we were deterministic enough that we could just like store the indices or something like that, right? So we can actually see them when they load. That would be very, very nice. That was actually one of the reasons that we did global entities initially. There's other reasons, but that was one of them.
Sweet. So yeah, and actually some other fun things that I've been learning here. So yeah, this is all the entity scene, which is all like just like the data for baked entities within an entity scene. And then there's content archives, which is where I believe kind of like all the like mesh and material data is kind of like stored, which is referenced by all the individual entities.
Is
that right?
All managed data as well. It's
okay.
Pretty much everything that can't be considered like component data, just like raw shared component data, unmanaged data, it will end up there. because then it will be picked up by the normal content archive system, which is the one that can do managed references, that can do Unity objects, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
I mean, the Unity object ref, that we.
Okay. Yeah. I hear it works similar to like asset bundle and addressable type things.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Awesome. Okay.
They are all binary. They can't really. I mean, it is actually that is another thing that we would like to do is there's this tool called something hex, ArmHex. I think it's ArmHex, which is really really nice to use for inspecting binary. Yeah, that is terrible. That is terrible. But there's this tool called ArmHex that I can definitely recommend people use for inspecting binary. If you can pull it up, I'm sure you can find it somewhere.
I'm sure I can find it on my computer right here.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that does not scale well. That does not scale well at all.
Oh, it's horribly. It's made with AmGUI. Yeah, the AmGUI, I'm pretty sure. Which is why it's called AmHex.
Yikes.
Anyways, it is an amazing tool for inspecting binary files.
So yeah, I was actually using this in my Dot Survivors game because I was doing some stuff with the save file, which is all stored in binary. So yeah, I was using this to inspect things and mess around with some different values, and yeah, it works well.
Yeah, and the thing you can do here is you can provide a sort of pre-processed thing that will just tell you in this part of the binary, it means this thing. In this part of the binary, it means this thing. Here's a section that talks about this. Inside of this section, it has, all the objects, etc. Like, if we just provided you with a file that lets you use ArmHex directly, oh my god, you can see all of the binary. You know exactly what the binary file means. It is something that our team probably might end up doing just because it will be useful for our team.
Yeah, I don't really know if like I would have a particular use for that type of thing all the time, but
yeah, exactly. No, but our team will definitely have a use for that.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So that is something
debugging and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that is something our team has talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Those are actually pretty much like all the main topics that I wanted to hit. Is there anything other random things that you wanted to bring up at all by chance?
No. I'm actually glad that I got to talk about entity ID because it's all I've been doing for a while now.
Really?
No, at least for the last like 1 or 2 months. It's just entity ID stuff.
It's just like every day you wake up and it's like, oh, entity ID again.
Yeah, the most annoying thing is it's constantly asking for philosophical questions about an integer. Are you actually this thing, or are you like, are you a number, or are you an entity ID? And doing that for every
convert these 4 bytes to these 4 bytes, but these 4 bytes might become 8 bytes later.
Yeah, it's so annoying. And the worst part is I've done this before. We did it for the next version of Unity already, but now we're doing it for 6 as well.
Whoa, new version of Unity announced right here. You heard it here first, folks.
You don't know if it's
what version number is that again? 6,400.
Yep, you don't know.
64K, 64,000.
There's that is a way different version. The secret is it will always be 6. There is no 7.
Yeah, it's like Mac OS X. Like it's just Mac OS X forever.
Well, no, they changed over to now. They're using.
Oh my god! Yeah, now they did the Unity thing.
They did the Unity thing. They shot themselves in the foot. This is horrible. Why did they do that? There's a reason we went away from it.
Exactly. There you go. What's that? 16-bit max.
Oh yeah.
65535. Anything new on dots related to animations? Take it away,
I think I
Dani.
have to go.
I did see
I have no idea.
The big thing is that we're joking about Unity versions and all that. The dots animation is now going to be shipped before Unity next 7000. Where
did we announce this?
This was like on, I think it was on like the 6.1 or 6.2 live stream.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, someone was asking about like, what's the deal with the new animation system? And they're like, oh, actually, like, sounds like they're maybe even accepting applications for people to join a beta. So that like might be happening at some point. So yeah. Excited to finally see that. Excited to finally see that in motion.
I know it's true, but I just didn't know we announced it. It's surprising news to me.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, exciting that it's going to be coming at some point, and hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on it soon enough here.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, I've used the new thing, and it's fun to use.
Yeah, I'm excited to play around with it. Seems like there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with it. I mean, at least from what I've seen in the Unite and GDC talks and all that. So
I mean, the most exciting thing for me was just the fact that you can profile animations and you can like see them play back.
Yeah, that was super cool.
That's really cool.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, we can wrap this up here. Thanks everybody for joining us here on this exciting episode 53 of the Hot Path Show. Dani, thanks for joining me and sharing all of your knowledge about everything that you know about everything about dots.
Definitely not an overwhelming title.
You're like, oh man, I really got to live up to that one, huh? So how to create materials in dots ECS. I can show you. We're wrapping this up. Please, sir, can you show quickly? I can. In my game, Dot Survivors here. Let me see if I can pull up. I just had this up, actually. Game authoring. Was that it? Thought I remembered the line number. I think it might be. Oh, goodness. Well,
it's also part of the repository for connecting the dots.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that quickly. Wait, let's see. Game start system. I think it's in here. Yeah, right. Here we go. Got it. So yeah, you basically just use a Unity material, but then the thing is you have to register this with the entity's graphic system. So first you need to get the entity's graphic system, which now, is this a place where we could use the system type index? To
I don't think so, no. Oh,
okay,
so no.
Well, never mind. So yeah, you get a reference to the entity's graphic system, and then you can do entity's graphic system dot register material. You just pass in the Unity material, which returns a player material ID. Okay. You get the this is I have a separate entity that the graphics entity is on, but you need to get the material mesh info component from whatever entity that you're trying to set the material on. And then you can set the player material mesh info .value RW, the material ID on it, to that material ID that was returned from the register material.
Yeah, I can also show another way that is even simpler.
Let's see it.
Because I don't think another.
Was I just talking without my screen even being shared, or did you take it away?
Yes, you were.
Oh my god!
Which made it even more confusing what you were talking about. I just want to say.
Yeah, here it is. Like you get existing system managed against the entity's graphic system. call register material with that Unity material, and then you're just setting, you get the material mesh info of the entity that you're setting the material on, set the material ID to that was returned from the register material. But Dani, let's see the better way.
The slightly simplified way. Okay. So first here.
And if you could
it does
zoom in a click or two on that.
Yes. It does require this thing called the baking system.
Which we were just talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So because in a what's it called? Whenever you have a what's it called? Let me quickly see. I need to remember how I did this. Yeah, whenever you have a material mesh info, it just at a certain point in the frame baking, it will just automatically create it. No, render mesh unmanaged. If you have a render mesh unmanaged in your baker, it will just create and add it and register it as part of that scene, right? So it adds. But it is very hard to explain what this code actually does. So we create an additional entity. We add the render mesh unmanaged component to that entity, and we add material mesh info to it. And now we have an entity that has a render mesh unmanaged info and a material mesh info. Because it has these two components, a certain point in a baking system, all of a sudden, this material mesh info will have been filled with the correct point inside of the map, which is the same point in the map that you can then use to reference and use that model and mesh info and so on. And so now all of a sudden I can make sure that, hey, I'm gonna add this right mesh info to model handle so that it actually gets put back into the buffer. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm gonna quickly show it in use, because what's more interesting, this is just like the behind the scenes now.
And that Git repo is public, right?
This Git repo is public. I'm gonna send the link in just a second.
Sweet.
Anyways, what it actually means is that if you then go to use this little utility and then say, hey, I want for this particular entity here, which is our offering, please add to it this model. So whatever model is here on this particular object, can you please add a prefab handle for it, right? And then now you've done it X number of times for X number of entities, and then just finish the action. Now all of a sudden in your code, you can just get... I hate explaining this. This is so... yeah. Now
so difficult to just set a material. Come on.
Yeah, but once it works, it's so nice to use this thing.
Yeah.
Because like what's nice here is that now for every entity where you added this, you just have this model handle, and it will tell you, hey, this is the model that you added for that, right? Like what you do is you add whatever model you want to add, and it will be added as a buffer. And now you can just, through that buffer, get the material mesh info that it was originally pointing at. And because you have the material mesh info, you know, hey, this is the material index, this is the mesh index, and now it's just added, right? Like what this call here has done is that it has registered it into the render mesh array. And because it's now inside of the render mesh array, it's just a question of how the hell do I get the correct index? And so this is just a way to retrieve that index. That's all the baker is doing, is just a way for you to retrieve it. There's other ways of that you could potentially retrieve it, right? Because it is always run. It has already run when post baking system group has run, right?
So this pretty much answers this question at all. Like, right, how would I register individual meshes during Baker without having prefab with renderer components? And so, like, I mean, you would just have like a list of all the meshes that you want, and you could just bake those all, right?
Yep. Like this just allows you to bake it without even having to.
And then, like you're mentioning, because I want to make a simple change mesh animation, editing mesh info ID, and that's kind of what you're talking about, like about keeping track of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like here, I'm creating a buffer, so I end up having like one offering thing that has the 4 different coders in our game. That is coders versus bugs.
Bugs versus coders.
Bugs versus coders. And so there's like 4 different coders, and each one of them has a different mesh and material. And so therefore it's literally just creating a buffer that has the different materials on it, right? And so if I get the first element of that buffer, I get the first element material mesh index.
Fun times. And yeah, I know CodeMonkey in his dots course, which is linked in the description of this, he has like a mesh change animation system, and he did a video on it on his YouTube channel. I don't remember just like how in depth he went into things on there. I don't remember if it was mostly just like him talking about it more kind of in general. But in his course, he goes into that pretty in depth.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How the hell do I?
You looking for something?
Oh, I'm just gonna post the link as well.
Oh yeah. So yeah.
And I also just noticed that I'm on a different account than I usually am on.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw your Dax Code Entertainment.
Yeah.
What's that one for?
Entertainment? I don't even remember.
That's where you put all your comedy sketches, your improv sketches that you do around the Unity office.
yes, that's exactly it. There you go. That's the model handle, and then there's also the code store offer for an example of usage.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. And so it looks like CodeMonkey registers the meshes during runtime with NT's graphic system. So yeah, you should just be able to do that through the baking, like Dani was just showing there.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot easier for people to just look at the code and see if they can understand it themselves. There are some comments that try to help understand it. It's not a lot of code, so it's just. And I know people really want to be able to edit at bake time, so this lets you edit at bake time, which is a big thing.
Like I did. That was the question that I had. So it was basically having to do with editing at bake time, because it's nice to do that sometimes.
Yes. So this lets you do it at bake time.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, with that, we can wrap up this episode of the Hot Path Show. Thanks everybody for joining in here today, and thank you again to the Survival Kid, Dani. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge of dots and everything. So yeah, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time. See ya.
Have fun.